Good morning, Eric Bollert.
Hey, good morning.
Is it me? It's even worse this weekend than normal, right? I mean, it's really kind of extraordinary and terrifying.
We say it every Monday morning, don't we?
Yes, yes, and now that'll
And it's
teach
true
us.
every Monday morning.
I mean, well, because he has 3 days to do horrendous and say horrendous things, but
Right.
we're seeing, Eric, just the really frightening real world consequences, right, of this constant need, and it is like clockwork. It would be funny if there weren't such horrible, horrific things happening. Him blaming Obama. I said it Friday, Eric. I said he mentions Hillary and Obama every single day. And sure enough, this weekend he's tweeting about Hillary and the emails and whatever, and blaming Obama for Syria, right?
Right, because he gets all of his insights, air quotes, from Fox News.
Yeah.
So of course, if there's any trouble, Hillary and Barack Obama are going to be at the forefront.
Yeah.
And so, his tweets about the FBI. Well, first of all, he's quoting Jesse Waters, which is always a bad idea on Fox News. And then he says, they shut down this investigation. They never interviewed her under oath, blah, 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 blah. Of course they interviewed her. And, of course, anytime you sit with federal investigators, if you lie to them, you can be prosecuted. It doesn't matter if you're under oath or not. So he still doesn't understand that, or more likely he just lies about it all the
Right.
time.
Or understand, let's just say anything. Let's
Yeah,
start there.
exactly.
Yes.
Fill in the blank. And the Obama thing, with Syria. Last week there was a piece, NBC News and a couple other places. He sat down with his U.S. commanders and told them days ago
Yes.
that he wanted to pull the troops out of Syria.
Yeah.
And it was the Washington Post, and they had a report the commanders left, quote, beside themselves.
Right.
Because they couldn't understand what he was talking about. One of them explicitly asked them. One of the top commanders said, "What is your goal in Syria?" He said, "Just get it done and bring the troops home." So if he's going to pull out the troops out of Syria, he's just going to hand Syria to Iran and Russia, and then 2-3 days later, he's blaming Putin for Russia, blaming Russia for the gas attack. So.
I'm sure Putin's terrified of his little Twitter threat.
Right.
Yeah.
So no one has, but the larger picture is no one has any idea what he's talking about. The commanders don't know what he wants. He's gotten rid of any of his semi-serious or coherent aides. John Kelly is completely useless from press accounts. He told people, he's been telling people off the record that he's, quote, out of here.
Right.
Not firing Pruitt at the EPA is among other things, just an FU to John Kelly, because John Kelly wants him to fire Pruitt. So this is the way Trump just continues to belittle everyone around him. It's pointless to talk about any kind of policy or strategy. In fact, it was it's not the most important thing, but there was a piece in Politico this morning about how the White House isn't even going to bother to come up with a strategy to counter the Comey book in that whole PR initiative that starts at the end of this week. And the reason they're not going to come up with any strategy is they conceded that even if they came up with something, Trump would just blow it up anyway. So what's the point?
Yeah.
So that's a very minor issue. Elevate that to, taxes, immigration, tariffs, the military. They're not even bothering to come up with plans or policy because they'll know he'll just rip it up.
Eric, I honestly, I never thought we would be in a place in this country. It literally is like, I don't know, go ask a line producer at Fox and Friends what our policy is on anything, because that's what it's going to end up being. I mean, you also talked about, speaking of this fake news, Trump brags about approval rating he made up out of thin air. I mean, this is, right, anything is just up for numbers, any of it. You said from ignoring his top military advisors on Syria strategy to tossing aside his prepared tax cut statements to wallow in anti-immigration hate rhetoric to telling supporters on AM talk radio that his real approval rating hovers about 60%. Trump seems to have retreated even further into a misinformation cocoon within the White House. Yeah, I mean... This is just, well, first of all, as you were saying, it's Rasmussen, which is obviously notoriously Republican-leaning poll, right?
Right, and so Rasmussen has him had him at 51%. The punchline, as I pointed out in the piece on last Friday, when Trump was touting the poll, he had already dropped back down to 47%. But so every other poll in America, if you look at all the sites that aggregate this stuff, he's clearly at 39, 40%.
Right.
But Rasmussen has him at 51%. So he says, I'm at 51%. And then he calls into this dopey right-wing talk show host show in New York on Friday. He says, oh, actually, I'm at 59%.
Right. He said they say it's 51, but add another 7 or 8 points to that.
Yeah, so just add in 7 or 8. I'm actually at 50. I'm at 51%, and I think the delusion comes from because he's convinced sending the National Guard troops to the border was such a phenomenal political home run that of course he was going to grab 7 or 8 more points. And so instead of at 40%, he's at 60%.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you also mentioned Larry Kudlow. You said comically spent the week not knowing what Trump was saying or doing about launching a reckless trade war with China. Like everyone else, Kudlow finds out about radical policy initiatives by reading Trump's tweets. I mean, Eric, I was saying earlier, the Republican Party knows as well as you and I are that he is dangerous and incompetent.
Right.
I just never, but I mean, here we are, right?
Here we are, and Congress was out for the last 2 weeks, Easter break, and now they're trickling back into town, and so we see the same complete non-committal anything.
Right.
There's no one's going to stand up, no one's going to ask what's going on, and so it's a complete abdication. I mean, it's really just amazing. And Larry Kudlow was like literally shuffling around the White House driveway at least 2 mornings last week. Having these weird impromptu, press gaggles, where he basically says, Trump was throwing out some 500 billion number, and Kudlow had to concede, well, I don't know what he's talking about there.
Like
the whole thing is just.
Oh my God, the numbers he made up last week about what we pay for NAFTA and what other countries pay were just completely way off the mark. Was it Kudlow, by the way, who kind of said, basically sort of said, well, we're negotiating, and I think it was Chuck Todd that at least said, well, that's not going to work if they know you're telling them that you're just negotiating, is it? I mean, that they don't mean it, they're not going to do these tariffs, they're just bluffing.
Right. And Trump's changing his mind every 9 hours because that works on reality TV. It's great. He thinks it makes for great programming. It doesn't really work on the international stage, and I love the fact. China is so much more obviously sophisticated than anything Trump does. I love the fact when they called out the items that they were going to apply tariffs to. I mean, they clearly went through every Senate close race in November and picked out products from these states, and they just poked it right in the GOP's face.
Yeah.
He's playing chess, and he's playing checkers, and they come on. Trump's going to outsmart Beijing.
Yeah, it's this art of the deal we've heard.
On what planet's that going to happen?
Yeah, it's this art of the deal we've heard so much about.
The art of the deal.
God, if even Chuck Todd is pushing back, right? He's just like, well, didn't you just tell them that you're bluffing just then?
Yeah, and again, the amazing thing is, the complete silence from the Republican Party.
Yeah.
And, it's like a suicide pact. I mean, it really is. There was a piece in the Washington Post this morning about how, basically, I think some of this is hype, and I don't think any Democrats should get complacent, but Republicans seem to be saying the House is gone. We got to put our money in the Senate.
Yeah.
Which is just mind-boggling because mathematically, Republicans should be picking up at least 2 or 3.
Yeah, well, Frank Luntz said the House and Senate are gone for Republicans, but I agree with you, Eric, don't get happy with good headlines, don't get, dispirited with bad headlines, just get registered, get the right ID, because this is just, like I say, we were talking about the, Der Spiegel piece that everyone was talking about other countries having the courage to say what even our media won't, that he is dangerous to America, to the world. He must be removed from office immediately. And I said, we do have a mechanism. We have the 25th Amendment. We have impeachment. But we have a traitorous, complicit party.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Madeleine Albright's piece in the New York Times over the weekend warning about fascism, Jonathan Alter, I saw him on Twitter. He was right. He said he could not remember in the history of this country someone of that stature, former Secretary of State, publicly warning about fascism in this country. I mean, I don't even know at this point if it even registers.
Yeah.
But yeah, so look, nobody knew. Look, with Watergate, et cetera, what's happening now is exactly what you just said. Nobody understood that the Republican Party would be universally complicit in all this. And the only 12 or 15 members of the Republican Party who are willing to speak out are the ones who are retiring.
Yep.
Every time someone even raises an eyebrow, you find out, they're retiring. So it's extraordinary. We've never seen an entire party just flush its conscience.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Mueller is getting closer, and as you write, you say if this is truly the let Trump be Trump stage of his presidency, it means madness reigns, and it's only going to get worse from here, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of one of the kind of the amazing press narratives is that, Trump's getting out of, he's firing everyone who will disagree with him, and they were cautious and they were making him toe the line. I mean, if you look back at 2017, and if you thought Trump was being cautious in 2017, I mean, that's frightening. But yeah, he's clearly, in a weird way, he seems oddly buoyant and confident, and he thinks everything's going great because his approval rating 60%. It must be going good.
Oh my God. Maybe that's good for us that he's just he's gotten all happy.
And maybe he'll just stroll right into that meeting with Robert Mueller, and he'll prepare as much for that as he prepared for his other depositions.
I encourage him every day. Wing it, Eric. You are much smarter than Bob Mueller. Rip up those notes. Yes.
Right. You're a smart guy. You can figure this out. Don't worry about it.
You have all the best words. Okay. Love you, Eric. See you next week.
Have a great week.
All right. There he goes.